welcome in everyone to another edition of the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey, our first edition or our first episode of 2024. So JDoc, I welcome you into 2024 and I welcome our audience in to 2024. This is another year of the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. How are you, sir?
Fantastic, Joe. It's obviously great to be here. We had a great 2023. And certainly 2024 is so promising. We got so much going on. When I think about, and we do, and I'll talk about our awesome guest on today's show in just a couple minutes. But when I think about, where we, the progress we made in 2023, I don't have to go too far. We had incredible guests, okay, and across the board. When I look back, just in the last month, Joe, okay. Just in the last month for the individual, I mean, literally, especially our board, but we, so many topics we're educating the public with and our policymakers. Discussion on electric vehicle mandates, setback situation in Pennsylvania, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. We're talking about that topic a lot. Permitting reform, RINs, and the RFS. And not to mention the unbelievable guests we've had from our Energy Education and Awareness Board of Directors, and beyond that. Okay, our goal is to educate the public on the details and facts of common sense in energy. Okay, and the progress we made in 2023 has been incredible. Everything we could have hoped for, and of course, going into 2024. We're looking forward to expanding, not only the broadcast, but also our social media, our digital footprint, and of course, our reach across the country so we can educate people so they can form educated opinions and make educated decisions, on energy policy, the facts and details about a lot of the, we talk about our traditional energy resources and companies, but also our renewables coming into the market, so that you get the opportunity to work together to use so many brilliant people and have the general public be educated in the process. Again, so we don't get into the rhetoric or anything like that. We all care, like we always say, we all care about the environment. And obviously, we care about, our energy and energy infrastructure. And of course, like we always say, Joe, when it comes to energy and decisions, on the environment, it shouldn't be a union issue, okay, or a political issue. It's a human issue, okay? So I couldn't be more excited about what's coming up. And so that's a big deal. And of course,
show today too, JDoc, with a great show to kick off 2024. Let me just remind our listening audience and of course our viewing audience, but if you would like to consume this show or any of our previous shows from the first 2 years, Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, just search the Labor and Energy Show. You'll be able to listen to some of those great conversations that we talked about. We'll get started on the other side of the break, JDoc, but I'll give you an opportunity or a little bit of a short runway here just to introduce our guests who will join you for the full hour today, the next two segments with a great company and two great leaders who are going to be with you today.
Absolutely, Joe. And, couldn't have said it better. Ted Topakas, General Manager, NOOTER in Philadelphia. Don Majchrowski, General Manager, NOOTER in Toledo. And two great individuals. NOOTER's been a huge supporter of the program, and we're very much appreciative of that. But this company, okay, is unbelievable. Okay, I mean, talk about historic in the energy sector and beyond. Of course, goes back to the late 1800s. Okay, I mean, the vast amount of workforce they employ. The culture of the company is incredible. What they do is second to none. Also giving back into the communities. But their core markets: oil and gas, chemical, power, industrial manufacturing, I mean, even getting into renewables and all those things. Just so much to talk about. This is a real treat, this broadcast.
We'll get started on the other side with our special guest. This is the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. Back in a moment.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Pond Lehocky doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
The best way to describe Anthony, David, and Jan are that they're my brothers. I met Anthony at LA Fitness because I noticed that he had a Teamster's bag and his dad was a Teamster leader.
I'm a third generation son of labor. My grandmother worked in a factory. My mother and father were both Teamster members. I don't think there's a trade that I don't have a family member in.
What's so big for me coming from a union background is what affects one member affects the entire membership.
A lot of people can relate to the issues that individuals deal with. We pride ourselves on empathy.
The big value that's always instilled in you if you grow up in a union household is the importance of brotherhood. People that lean on each other, that rely on each other.
When we were building this business, having that background and knowing what matters most to the union members is really what we use to drive and build out Retiree First.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome back to the Labor and Energy Show on the Jacob Media Network. I'm ecstatic to bring into the program Ted Topakas, General Manager, NOOTER, Philadelphia. How are you, Ted?
Good. Happy New Year to you. Thank you for having us on.
It's our pleasure, and Happy New Year to you as well. And Don Majchrowski, General Manager, NOOTER in Toledo. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Happy New Year, Joe.
Happy New Year right back. Lots to talk about. And so, first of all, of course, we've appreciated NOOTER for what is due in the market. I mean, for centuries. And what is due for our workforce and the communities and our energy sector and all the projects and all those things. But before we get into all that, because we're even going to touch on the history of NOOTER, which goes back, like I said in the opening, to the late 1800s. By the way, that's right about the time Krausey came into the picture, but no reason to talk about that now. But guys, if you would, and I'll start with Ted. If you would, Ted, a little bit about yourself, your pathway to NOOTER, and about what you do as a general manager.
Sure. So about 25 years I've spent in the energy space. I've worked for both the contractor side as well as the owner side over my career. Spent the majority of my time working for oil and gas companies, whether it's building pipelines, gas distribution systems, also work in the utility space, worked in the electric utility, telecom markets, wide range. Majority of my career spent on the union labor side of the house. So predominantly here in the northeastern part of the country, was a major participant in the Marcellus shale build out over the years. So it's been a good career. It's been a good industry, and we've got a lot of things on the horizon that are just going to expand and continue to grow the business.
Absolutely fantastic, Don. If you would, a little bit about yourself, your pathway, to where you are today, and your responsibilities.
Yeah, I've been about 25 years with NOOTER this year. All of them been with the Toledo office. Was born and raised in Northwest Ohio. Just sort of worked my way up. I spent a lot of time in our refining group, and I think in 2013, it's about 10, 11 years I've been the general manager. And out of the Toledo office, we everything you referenced there with the oil, gas, chemical, power, and industrial manufacturing, heavy into all those. There's a lot of mixed industry in Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan. So we have a good opportunities in a lot of different markets that we participate, in the greater Ohio area.
And when we talk about general manager, and we're going to get into the company, okay, but the magnitude of NOOTER, okay, what your responsibilities, in regards to overseeing the projects and the manpower and obviously the management. Talk about your daily responsibilities as a general manager in Philly, Ted, and of course in Toledo, Don. Ted, if you'll go first.
So the role of general manager is an overarching responsibility for multiple functions for the company, right? Starting with safety, the number one obligations is to make sure we keep our people safe, so that we have a passion about our safety culture, and being that we start everything and making sure that our people go home the way they came. So that's number one. The other is the quality, making sure that we're developing and providing a quality service to our customers, as well as the well-being of the financial health of the company as well. So there's a variety of different functions that go across the responsibility of my plate, whether it's HR, whether it's charitable functions. There's a variety of different things that come across our plate on a daily basis, that every day is a new adventure. You start off with a certain agenda, but where the day takes you is ultimately ends in with my responsibility to make sure it's done with safety and quality.
Now, when you're the general manager, obviously in Philadelphia, and Don in Toledo, is it at one plant? Are you overseeing different projects? Don, if you would.
No, it's everything. We have a lot of autonomy to run our offices. So each NOOTER office has a general manager. We all report to one president. But within our each office, we have full P&L responsibility in all business functions that we're responsible for. So we all do work beyond just our immediate footprint, geographical footprint. Out of our Toledo office, currently we have a project that we're doing in Arkansas, a project in Kentucky. So wherever the project originates out of, whichever office, that would funnel up under that general manager. Now, all of our offices, we routinely collaborate on the same project regularly, but whoever has the origination of that project, they full responsibility for that. We also have the things Ted didn't touch on. We certainly partake on all of our strategic planning. So we make sure that from a corporation standpoint, from a holding company level all the way down through each business unit, that the corporate strategic initiatives and goals flow down, and we make sure that ours support the corporate. So we're aligned across the entire corporation. We oversee those, and that's really where we spend a lot of our time. We have a lot of very good management, mid-level management throughout the organization. So there's lots of the business that sort of runs itself, which affords the general managers time to, spend time with strategic initiatives, strategic clients, and, strategic project pursuits.
So how many offices are there across the country?
We have large brick and mortar operations in Philadelphia, Chicago, St. Louis, Toledo, and Los Angeles. And also Ted will touch base on some utility work that we've recently started that's happening out of the Boston area. Ted will touch base on that. And then we have several smaller offices that are just sort of adjunct offices that help the main offices, whether it's a strategic client. Some of them have to do with just having a fab shop in a geographical location that is meaningful or things like that. But generally, they have the 5 large offices that I referenced.
Ted.
As Don mentioned, we so for the Philadelphia office, we've got responsibility predominantly in the tri-state area, between the Eastern PA, New Jersey, and Delaware is kind of our footprint for most of our business. Recently, we've embarked on a new venture out of our Norton, Massachusetts, which is a suburb outside of Boston, and it's a utility division that we've opened up that focuses on storm restoration and overhead utility distribution work. So it's been in business for a little over a year now, and starting to grow legs and gain a following.
So as we talk about NOOTER, and I talked about the historical part of it. I mean, the company goes back to the 1890s. Okay, and talk about that history before because we're gonna. It's amazing when people drive past these big plants, right? And they want to know, wow, I mean, how did that that facility get to where it's at? Well, a company like NOOTER makes it happen with the unbelievable skilled workforce and great management. But this just didn't happen overnight. Like to get in a little bit of the history of NOOTER. Don, do you want to jump in there? I don't know which one of you guys is.
I'll take that. Yeah, it originated in St. Louis, Missouri in the late 1800s as a small boiler company and just really existed in the greater St. Louis area. And that business lasted for 30 or 40 years. And then they got into doing fabrication and eventually, had a world-class fabrication facility right on the Mississippi River, right in downtown St. Louis. And, throughout the 40s, 50s, and then really all the way through the 90s, they operated a large-scale, world-class, state-of-the-art fabrication facility that predominantly built large pressure vessels. So throughout the world today, there are hundreds and hundreds of pressure vessels that are still in operation today in a number of oil refineries, chemical plants. And that at peak, that fab shop employed, close to 500 workers in a fab shop. So just to give you a size, magnitude, and scale that you're talking about, that to have 500 people working in the shop, it was huge. And that existed all the way through the late 90s. And then when there was a shift in fabrication to head to Southeast Asia, and that's really when you've seen Korea really starting to take off as an option for fabrication. And you saw a lot of domestic fab shops, close their doors, starting in the 80s, 90s. And then, it was around 2001, I believe, when we closed that shop, because there was just that massive global shift in the industry to source everything from Southeast Asia. But so that's certainly a part of our lineage and something we're very proud of. And, I know myself, with a lot of the time I spent in a lot of those petrochem facilities, seeing that NOOTER nameplate on a lot of vessels, something always a source of pride. And, then along the lines in the 70s, they started doing, the field fabrication and erection of some of the vessels. And then that, morphed into just full scale, industrial construction. And that's when, we do a lot of mechanical work. It started as really a Boilermaker company to support, fabrication opportunities and erection. Today, we have numerous trades that we self-perform, that we're signatory to at all of our offices. And, we do a lot of electrical work, a lot of rotating work with our millwrights and conveyance work. We have inside and outside electrical work that we do. And, that's really that mechanical work and that non-boilermaker work that, NOOTER is known for, really is the power of the company today. And really a lot of our, the percentage of boilermaker work that we do as a whole compared to the other trades is pretty small now. Whereas once upon a time, it really was, the lifeblood of the company. There's just a significant amount of electrical work and in piping and mechanical work that we're now doing in conjunction with that.
Ted, do you want to add something there?
So basically, the transition to the evolution of the company to, we're known in the industry, the refinery business, the power business for our mechanical services. We have a great relationship with our pipe fitters, boilermakers, millwrights. We've got rigging engineers. We're known for heavy lifts in the industry. So when refineries go into major turnarounds, the first person they want to call is NOOTER to come in and help them plan their turnarounds. We come in, months to years in advance to help, depending upon the size and scope of the work, and be part of the team that goes through that planning. And really comes down to the 6-7 weeks of that turnaround to execute flawlessly, and that's what we're known for.
Okay, so it's interesting because the more we have this conversation, the more I'm thinking, first of all, you talk about the diversity of the work. And as the industry changed, and your expansion and not depending on one particular area, okay, and expanding into a lot of different areas. Immediately, my first thing, I go to the leadership, okay, and the importance of leadership with vision, obviously, knowledge. Talk about the importance of the leadership of a company, okay, from the top down, but also, you talk about the company's been around since 1890, but 1894 or the late 90s. But, you have been able to maintain a leadership level that's really, in a sense, unprecedented because there's so many eras when you talk about going back that far where, you either stagnate or you develop and grow. Talk about the leadership of a company. And by the way, you can throw yourselves in there and how important it's been to not only surviving, but thriving throughout these different eras and changing, particularly, like you said, since the early 2000s.
I'll say the one thing is, so we're an employee-owned organization, and we have several hundred stockholders, all part owners of the business. So some of them are obviously significant stockholders, and others are very minor. But at the end of the day, it gives you a sense of pride and ownership. I know that's a little cliche, but there's really not many companies, if any, that are structured in an ownership standpoint like we are. Certainly there's plenty of ESOPs and employee-owned companies, but the amount of people that are afforded the opportunity to buy stock with the company, I think is perhaps one of a kind. And with that, we have a good diversity of ownership. We have people who come from the trades, who are still active in the trades, who are stockholders, and then all the way up through our, the heads of all the companies. So you have a good mix of that. And what that does is it gives a voice to a very good spectrum of employees, backgrounds, and things like that. So that really, we've maintained that for decades. So having that diverse ownership group and makeup, and then the longevity of that really has helped us, sort of persevere through all the ups and downs, the market swings. There's lots of things that happen that are beyond our control. But having that mix, I think, and I think about myself as coming up through the organization, it really helps you, make better decisions. It helps from a risk standpoint, not taking undue risk. And you do think about your fellow stockholders, regularly. So I think that makeup is really something that has helped us and helped guide us. And then the amount of time and effort we spend on strategic planning as well. I think the combination of all of those is what's helped us, survive and really thrive for all these years.
Ted?
Yeah, I'd have to echo what Don was saying. I think the ownership structure really is a major advantage. You don't have, we're not a publicly held company, so you don't have to manage to a monthly or quarterly earnings guidance. You're not privately held by one single family that has direct control. You've got that breadth of ownership that allows a conservative nature. We do everything for the stockholders' benefit. You've got seasoned leadership that's been here for many years, and then you also have new talent that comes in, including myself. I've been here just over a year, and so when you have that mix of perspective of the history and the culture of the company with some outside perspective, you look at what's going on in the industry. You bring best practices from other areas to incorporate in the business. And you have that great mix of longevity versus new perspective to kind of help take advantage of the markets that are in front of us. So it's, from what I've seen here, it's a great culture, great leadership, and there's a plan to transition and succession planning that goes hand in hand with that.
It's just so impressive, man. And when I think about being able to expand in the different areas, succeed at the level that you talk about, it's just so impressive. We're gonna continue this conversation and expand it. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to throw it back to Krausey. We'll have more from the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey in just a minute.
My name is Eleanor Northaft. My husband was in the union, Local 282. As I'm getting older, I would like somebody to fight for me. So I called up Retiree First.
Hi.
And I got Brooke.
So nice to meet you. I'm Brooke. I'm an advocate at Retiree First. I've been working with Eleanor for 3 years. She was one of my first calls. I helped her with transportation to her doctors, getting her glasses reimbursed.
Oh, they are pretty fancy.
I'm basically just answering any questions she has.
And I always have a lot of questions.
Not too many.
I have a friend there. I love it because I can depend on her to help me out in any situation.
Oh, I'm excited.
She always comes through for me.
Do you stream on a Roku, a Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app. Watch Action News live.
And the big story on Action News.
Plus special programming, breaking news, and severe weather updates.
Tremendous amounts of rain.
Always on, always the news team you trust. Watch 6ABC 24/7 on your streaming device. Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome back to the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. We're on the Jacob Media Network, broadcasting up the East Coast, and we've got fantastic guests. The company is NOOTER, legendary company in our industry. Ted Topakas, General Manager, NOOTER Philadelphia. Don Majchrowski, General Manager, NOOTER Toledo. Gentlemen, we talked about the leadership, but it's just so interesting, the vision and the ability to pivot in a lot of ways. And as we talk about the company, I'd like to talk about what the end user can expect. Okay, you mentioned massive shutdowns. Okay, and so much on the line. And when things are when you're bringing in hundreds, sometimes thousands of workers on shutdowns or just general projects. Talk about what the confidence and what an end user can expect when they bring NOOTER in to lead and spearhead their projects. Don, if you will.
Sure. I think though what we talk about most is predictability. That you're hiring NOOTER to deliver an expected level of safety, quality, and schedule attainment. And I think that we have a significant recurring revenue stream from many, Fortune 500 companies, a lot of publicly traded companies, that they know what they get. And we're far from perfect. And, we make mistakes every day on big projects. But our commitment to schedule, our commitment to safety, we're fortunate to have a lot of good customers who share an aligned safety strategy as us. We're able to, apply resources as necessary to achieve the safety performance that we expect. So that's very good. We have a lot of great customers who support that. And we just understand what's at stake with publicly traded companies, the demands from their investors and private equity is always something that we take very serious. We're cognizant of that. Our project management teams understand the pressures that the owner is under. And we have decades long processes of how we execute those projects, how we attract labor from across the country to support the very large projects. And that predictability is what we like to hang our hat on, that what you're going to get, and they can take solace in that, I think.
It's interesting, being humble. We're human, everybody makes mistakes, but you're right a hell of a lot more than you're not. And that's why, and Ted, if you would talk about the value of some of these projects. I mean, these aren't like $1 million, projects. These are tens of million, billion-dollar projects we're talking about. Talk about the magnitude of the projects, the shutdowns, and what's on the line with some of these projects that you do on a daily basis across the country.
So, Joe, you're correct. Yeah, the size and scope of these projects are significant, tens of millions of dollars. For us in the Philadelphia area, we focus a lot of our efforts in the refinery space. So, when you think about a refinery, they have a certain amount of time to shut down, do all their capital projects, their maintenance work. So when they're shut down, they're not producing any revenue at that particular time for the most part. So they're relying on that window of time to execute flawlessly, get back online when they're scheduled, so that they can meet their deliverables on the back end. So for us, it's imperative that we meet our commitments so that we don't do any harm to our customers. So yeah, there's a significant amount of pressure, and it comes down to our people. Our people have a lot of industry knowledge, expertise, and dedication to their craft. And so without that, none of this would be possible.
Let's talk about the magnitude of the company from an employee workforce standpoint. How many, and the lives, in a sense, that you're impacting just with the workforce that you're employing on a daily basis, kind of throughout the country. Doesn't have to be an exact number, but I want the people to understand the magnitude of the company and how many lives, that you're impacting, who are making a living wage and a good one with benefits and all those things. What are we looking at in general, Don?
I'd say the last 10 years, we've averaged between 4 and 6 million work hours executed on an annual basis across all of our companies. No offices, we're rarely that all of our offices are slammed at the same time. So that's why, we have a standardized processes and infrastructure so we can plug and play project management across different projects in different offices. So with that, we have, several hundred, what we would consider, professional salaried, positions. And if you do a full-time equivalent, you're talking upwards of 3,000, strong workforce in a given year that we may hire across the country, amongst all of our offices.
And when you talk about that workforce in a year, just in a particular area, and Ted, let's just talk about Philadelphia, the workforce that's employed in one section of the country. What are we looking at?
So you're asking what type of salary or
No,
earnings they would make?
sorry, but the number of workers that.
The number of workers. So the number of workers, we're probably looking at anywhere, we're probably 500, employees, craft employees, probably 100 staff employees. And it ramps up and it ramps down based on the workload that we have. So it project specific, but at any given point in time, we could be 500 to 750 people a year employed.
And so when we talk about the workforce that is employed, okay, we talked about what the end user can expect. Let's throw that in there. Obviously, there's a decent amount of trades. Okay, talk about the workers that are that you're bringing on. Union workers. You have your professional workers. Talk about the training that they receive. Obviously the work ethic and what type of employee that is coming through those doors with that NOOTER hard hat on.
So for us, in the really the when you onboard somebody, a lot of the professionals that we have or the craftsmen that come through our door are trained from the trade they're in, whether it's the pipe fitters, the boiler makers, the linemen that we're employing. They come with a great history and great training program, so they're professionals when they arrive. What we bring here, they can expect is the culture that we're going to instill upon them when it comes to our safety and our quality. They go through an onboarding process. They go through a training program that speaks to what the expectations are from not only NOOTER but as well as the customer. So the expectation is they bring their craft along with our culture, and we're going to provide a superior product for the industry.
Absolutely, Don.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Throughout all the various apprenticeships, throughout the country, near our offices, we're intimate with those apprenticeships. So a lot of our supervisors are apprentice instructors. We serve on JATCs in a lot of places. We sit on, pension and, health and welfare committees and things like that. So we try to zipper up from bottom to the top with all of the various trades. So we're intimate, and we have, we get to see who the good apprentices that are coming, and try to recruit. That's very competitive. We're certainly not the only contractor doing that. But that helps us identify people that, we like to get, and, hopefully they can retire with NOOTER, from their apprenticeship all the way to the end of their careers. So that's something we invest a lot of time in, and, throughout with all the trades, at the national and international level, we have very good long-standing relationships with the executives of all of the, major trades. And those are relationships that, we also look at that as sort of succession planning, is when people are leaving the organization and retiring, who have those relationships, that we're making sure that those are portable to somebody else within the organization, because we're in this together, and we spend a lot of time with, fostering those relationships. So,
you talk about, being ingrained in the entire, when you talk about the unions and being involved and ingrained in each one of the unions and the trades that work as part of NOOTER. Let's talk about the core markets, okay? That NOOTER, is a part of. talking oil and gas, chemical power, industrial manufacturing. I always want to remind our listeners that we're having this is the Labor and Energy Show. We're having a soup to nuts conversation with leadership from NOOTER, one of the major companies in our industry. Don Majchrowski, General Manager at NOOTER Toledo, Ted Topakas, General Manager, NOOTER Philadelphia. Let's talk about those core markets. Ted, if you will, talk about the projects, the facilities in Philadelphia that comprise, NOOTER when it comes to those core markets.
So the energy space is critical to who we are as a company. We try to serve the markets that are in our area where the market's growing. We're looking at our existing footprint, staying in the refinery and power generation markets, but also looking at where the future is. So, we've got to protect our core business and maintain that presence, but also look to where does the country want to go for its energy needs. So we diversify into the renewable space. We're diversifying to meet the needs of whether it's the hydrogen hubs that were just announced recently, Mach 2 or whatever that may be. Then there's the electrification movement that's out there. So, as the country is moving more towards EVs or microgrids, that we've got to strengthen our electric infrastructure. We're looking at all that and saying, where does NOOTER need to be? How do we position ourselves to take advantage of what the markets are requiring? And so we're constantly through our strategic planning, looking at the different spaces of what we need to do as a company, make sure we have the resources, we're investing in the right technologies, the right safety programs, and looking at the future. So it's not resting on your laurels and saying this is what we do today, but what can we be doing tomorrow so we continue to serve and meet the needs of this country.
It's interesting you say that, because in a sense, it's almost like a microcosm of what NOOTER has been about for well over 100 years, and that is, expanding with the market, with technology. You talk about renewables, and Don, let me ask you a question. Do you feel a response, and Ted also, do you feel a responsibility as part of leadership during this time to be able to, in a sense, expand and grow with technology and obviously with, the direction of energy? Is it an interesting part of being a leader here? And in a sense, you have the baton, just like those before you, and expanding into the markets as they come along. Like, in a sense, your forefathers, because this is a company where you can actually say your forefathers. Is that an air and a responsibility that you take, that you wear as a badge of honor, Don?
Sure. This goes back to where I mentioned the being an employee-owned company. It's looking out for all those future stockholders, right? So when I retire, I'm going to have a lot of people from my office that are in their 20s and 30s that we got to make sure that they have an avenue and a platform to carry the business on. And that's why we're pretty excited about some emerging markets. We've got a project that is going to have a public announcement next week, so I can't divulge it. But NOOTER is going to EPC a solar project for a Fortune 200 company. This will be at 2 of their manufacturing locations to get them to carbon neutral. So we are going to break ground on those in 2024, and there'll be a public announcement on that next week. So very excited about that. And we're also have a project that we've recently mobilized in Kentucky. It's a greenfield battery recycling plant. And this is to support the EV industry. And, there's a challenge with getting the rare earth elements into the market, right? Yeah. So this is, part of how the industry will meet the demand is to recycle batteries, so lithium ion. So we're very excited about that project that we're doing a design build with a construction manager on that one. And so we mobilized a few months ago. That's probably about an 18-month project. So those two, and plus what Ted mentioned with the electrical group out of Boston, with what we're looking at there, those are all very new to NOOTER, but very much part of our strategic plan and things that we see as, sustained, markets that probably exist for the foreseeable future, that we feel real good about where we are in that space. And there's several other things that we're working on that are just on level with that. Some of those we can't really get into from a strategic standpoint, but very excited about the future. There's a lot of new things that we have in the works.
And having said that, and that's one of the things we talk about on the show, our traditional energy resources and organizations and working together, because it's amazing how many people are passionate about the future, okay, and getting into renewables, maintaining our traditional energy resources, working together as we, work towards that carbon neutral future. We're all in it together. We only have a couple minutes. And safeties, we talk about the key crafts, boilermakers, pipe fitters, millwrights, electricians. And again, we're going to spitfire here because we've covered so much ground, but there's a national agreement that NOOTER has. If you'll take a minute, and then I want to close up on you talked about safety, we'll talk about a minute on the national agreement.
Don, I'll let you take that one.
Go ahead, sure. Yep. That's, with that, we have, that's kind of goes back to the relationships we have that are decades long, with all these trades, that we work under, most of our projects we do under PLAs and national agreements that, again, give the owner a say-so in the project. It gets them involved in the upfront planning, and we work with the owner and the labor and management together in a tripartite fashion. And all of our large projects are executed under one of those type of agreements. There's 2 or 3 different versions,
and that makes it, it's such a secure situation. That talks about the magnitude of NOOTER. As we roll, and I know you talked about safety, and I just want to, so that people can go home the way they came in. And I know it's such a major part of what NOOTER does. And so I obviously, we talked about it. I wanted to reiterate that. But also 30 seconds on giving back, because NOOTER is not only, you're involved in different charities, and we got about 30 seconds, but I wanted to touch that because we just got out of the holiday season, and NOOTER not only makes a difference on the job, but in the communities.
Sure. All of our offices are long-standing within the communities that we work. And it's something that we expect and we discuss. And it's almost sort of competitive to see who can get creative the most with, doing things for their employees and charities in their backyards in those communities. All of our offices are intimate with those types of things. We don't have a national one. We let each office decide on their own what they're going to support, but it's very important to our culture and our employees for sure.
Gentlemen, Don Majchrowski, General Manager, NOOTER Toledo, and Ted Topakas, General Manager, NOOTER Philadelphia. I want to thank you both for joining us here on the Labor and Energy Show, giving us kind of a soup to nuts on NOOTER. We appreciate what you do, for the industry, for the energy sector, for the workforce, and for the communities. And we really appreciate the support on the program. Thanks so much for joining us, and happy 2024, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. We'll have more from the Labor and Energy Show in just a minute.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Pond Lehocky doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
The best way to describe Anthony, David, and Jen are that they're my brothers. I met Anthony at LA Fitness because I noticed that he had a Teamster's bag and his dad was a Teamster leader.
I'm a third generation son of labor. My grandmother worked in a factory. My mother and father were both Teamster members. I don't think there's a trade that I don't have a family member in.
What's so big for me coming from a union background is what affects one member affects the entire membership.
A lot of people can relate to the issues that individuals deal with. We pride ourselves on empathy.
The big value that's always instilled in you if you grow up in a union household is the importance of brotherhood. People that lean on each other, that rely on each other.
When we were building this business, having that background and knowing what matters most to the union members is really what we use to drive and build out Retiree First.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
And back here on the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. JDoc, good two segments today. Great way to start or kick off, rather, 2024. Only a couple of minutes left here in the close, which is usually the case and usually means you had a great interview.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, you talk about NOOTER and the magnitude of NOOTER and the lives that they impact, the projects that they impact, on a daily basis, the communities, We could have, done, well more than we did because you can see, I mean, you're talking about a company that has been around since mid-1890s. But what I really loved about it is you see how they are constantly expanding their company, meeting technology and where energy's going and certainly employing so many families, and doing it safely, Safety is such a big part, ensuring that individuals go home, come home from work the way they came in. And then you talk about the leadership and a company like that, and to do it for generations and after generations is so impressive. We're just real appreciative that we have a company like NOOTER who has done it for so long, is going to continue to do it at such a high level, at a magnitude of what they're doing. And of course, we want to thank the Don and Ted for being on the broadcast. Just a great show.
No doubt about that. And we will continue to do what we do here in 2024 on the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey as we transition and we roll in to 2024. Got about 35 seconds left, JDoc. We've got a good year already on schedule for this year, and we've got some exciting things coming up as well that we'll plan as the year rolls on.
No question, Joe. Like we said at the beginning, we're going to have great guests. We're going to educate the public. We're going to educate our policymakers and on the details and information of common sense and energy. And I think we have a unique opportunity to make a difference, so that our leadership can work together, to meet our energy needs, our environmental needs, which are a total priority, and certainly do it at a level where we never fall behind, and where the United States maintains its energy security, and leadership, and so that we can impact the world like we're continuing to do so on so many levels.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Labor and Energy Show with JDoc and Krausey. Don't forget you can download this edition of the Labor and Energy Show via podcast. Just go to Apple or Spotify and search the Labor and Energy Show. On behalf of my partner JDoc and on behalf of the entire NOOTER company, I'm Joe Kraus. See you next time, everybody.
My name is Eleanor Northaft. My husband was in the union, local 282. And as I'm getting older, I'd like somebody to fight for me. So I called up Retiree First.
Hi.
And I got Brooke.
So nice to meet you.
I'm Brooke. I'm an advocate at Retiree First. I've been working with Eleanor for 3 years. She was one of my first calls. I helped her with transportation to her doctors, getting her glasses reimbursed.
Oh, they are pretty fancy.
I'm basically just answering any questions she has.
And I always have a lot of questions.
Not too many.
I have a friend there. I love it because I can depend on her to help me out in any situation.
Oh, I'm excited.
She always comes through for me.
Do you stream on a Roku, a Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app. Watch Action News live,
And the big story on Action News.
plus special programming, breaking news, and severe weather updates.
Tremendous amounts of rain.
Always on, always the news team you trust. Watch 6ABC 24/7 on your streaming device. Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.